Welcome into episode 120. I feel like a darts announcer when I say that. Although I don't think there's ever been a score of 120 in darts. All the damn days that I've watched darts, spent countless hours watching darts, I've never heard of 120. It's In Goal Radio, the podcast, presented by The Hockey Shop source for sports, Surrey. Welcome aboard. We've got a great one for you today and a slight pivot. Last week, we promoted Mike DiPietro. Will be this week. Well, we've moved off that because we have some breaking news and a great timely guest. So while Mikey's at the World Championship getting ready there, we are going to slide into the feature interview presented by Sense Arena with Alex Nedeljkovic from the Carolina Hurricanes, who has the starting job there. So that is the feature interview. And there's so many moments and pieces of that conversation with Woody that you will soak up, and learning moments really on how to absorb the knowledge that is being passed your way. So let's bring in the aforementioned Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, the co-founders of In Goal magazine. Gentlemen, we have a task before us today on this episode of In Goal Radio, the podcast, to give a listener our top 10 favorite episodes of all time. So 119 episodes up for nomination. Have you done your homework?
Yes, sir. I have done my homework.
Woody, have you done your homework?
Do you see how fast I'm scrolling right now?
You are brutal. Absolutely brutal. And I'm going to go first just because I can. But let's just give a shout out to the folks, Woody, at the Hockey Shop, source for sports, Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, because this is coming out of this pandemic, and I know everybody's dealing with it in different phases right now. But boy, Cam and the crew over there have done a marvelous job throughout this whole thing, and now into gear season.
Yeah, and it's an exciting week there because the Bauer Hyperlight line has launched. We'll hear Cam talk about the second price point today, the 3X. But all the gear we already previewed, the pads and gloves for the Hyperlights in store. You can buy it off the shelf right now or do your custom ordering through Cam. The 3X gear we're going to talk about today is in store. The new Hyperlight stick is in store. Really cool little feature on the handle that we'll tease in the gear segment later. But if you want to go in store or check them out online, they've got it there. Chest protector as well. The line has launched, and you can check it out at the Hockey Shop source for sports in person or thehockeyshop.com, or just call Cam and get all the information you need about the newest from Bauer with the Hyperlight and the other brands that are coming out. We've had the CCM eFlex 5 launch. Most of those products, we've got some other ones coming up, some other accessories coming up in the next couple of months. But for now, it's Bauer's the focus, and they've got it all in stock and ready for you to take home at the Hockey Shop source for sports and thehockeyshop.com.
And so much more on the Bauer 3X line coming up in our gear segment with Woody and Cam. So here we go. Let's get into it. Our favorite episodes of all time. I will lead us off because I feel the need to do that as the host, and I don't want anybody else stealing one of mine and having to pivot at the last second. So by virtue of having control of the microphone, I will go first. Episode 23, Martin Brodeur at the National Hockey League Draft in Vancouver. The one and only time that we have all been together and interviewed a guest for that purpose of that episode. Now, we did some stuff at Goalie Palooza. We put some episodes together around that, but that was where we gathered early in the morning before the second day of the draft, and we got it to sit down with Martin Brodeur, who was awesome in this quiet little lobby at a boutique hotel just down the street from Rogers Arena. So that was cool. That was number one for me. Episode 44, Steve Valiquette. Anytime you can pick the brain of Clearsight Analytics and the former goaltender, that one had so much range to it, from modern day analytics to his career, and his journey is fascinating. And how he admitted that he stepped outside the boundaries at times, and also learned from it and offered it up. So that was really, really a cool conversation. And arguably my favorite, maybe not as high profile as the Brodeur one, but episode, I want to say 40, episode 40, Chris Osgood and Bauer World. Aussie. I remember where I was when we recorded that interview. I was in Denver at a hotel, and we hooked up. Woody and I hooked up with Ozzy, and just hearing Ozzy just be so honest about different things that he had to do as a goaltender, and the fun that he had as a goaltender, and what he learned as a goaltender from Kenny Holland, but some of the goofy stuff that he didn't like to do as signed by his head coach. Those are my three favorites.
See, so this
That
is the
was
reason that you get to go first, because I just crossed 2 off my list. So that's perfect. Because I can't, you
Hey.
know me, I can't make a short enough list. I always go long. So you guys, Hutch, you go next, so I can just whittle a couple more off and get down to a reasonable number here.
Yeah, that was a quality move, Darren. That was veteran. I sort of thought you might go first with
Thank you.
one and then pass it over to us, but no, you made us
No,
scratch
no,
off three.
no,
So I scratched off
no.
as you hit Brodeur. I saw Woody scrolling a little bit more as you mentioned Valakat. And of course, you've done a great job of showing everybody what a great student you were in school growing up, because you didn't just say who was on the show, but the exact episode number. You probably had the best presentations in elementary school, didn't you? You were the guy.
Buddy, if we're going to offer up the episodes, it's easier for people to go through and go, oh, episode 40? Yeah, I can find that, rather than looking through it.
Well, you're the host, but I put the show notes together, so there'll be links.
I service the people.
There'll be links because of me serving them even more. So, okay, so my top three. Number one for me was Glenn Hall, without a doubt. What an incredible!
yeah.
I mean, much like that opportunity to sit down with the legend Martin Brodeur, sitting down with one of the greatest of all time in Glenn Hall, in his living room at his farm, just outside Edmonton, and maybe even drinking a few pops with him. But just what an incredibly warm person, what a generous man, an incredible sense of humor. Took us down through, showed us some of his memorabilia afterwards as well. It was just an incredible day, and
I'm still jealous that you got to do that.
well, and thank you to our good friend Eli Wilson for helping make that happen too. So yeah, just a splendid day for Maddie and me as well, and hope we got some of that feeling across in the show. So give that one a listen. Number two was one that I got to do solo, was with Devin McConnell, who was at the time the head of sports science for the Devils, and has since moved to Arizona, out to the desert. And I went to grad school studying exercise physiology, and I worked a little bit at the Olympic Training Center in the U.S. So we have some common loves, although he is light years ahead of me in both his understanding and his practice. But it was just fun to be able to listen to Devin, and I really enjoyed it because he challenged, I think, some common perceptions for the sport. You know, one that stepped out for me quickly was that you could have more than two goaltenders on the ice in a practice and it actually be physiologically better for them in terms of how they're practicing. And just anybody who
We've learned that this year now.
Yeah, for sure. And anybody who makes us think outside the box like that, I just love listening to. And also his principles about micro-dosing training. So you don't need to sit down for 4 hours to become a better goaltender. You can make use of those few minutes that you have every day. So just love listening to Devin and speaking to him since. And then the other one I thought maybe you would pull out, Darren, was the two of us sitting down with Bernie Parent virtually. Another Hall of Famer, another incredibly warm and funny human being, and his wife Jeannie, who put it together. And I just thoroughly loved that. Right from before we even got on air, when he invited us to go fishing with him on his boat this summer. Hope those borders are open soon, boys, because I'm heading down to see Bernie if it does. Just a great person and somebody I grew up watching as well. So a real pleasure. And I think for us to enjoy some of the great young goaltenders that we're hearing from, like Alex today, I think it's also great to look back on the history of the game and where it all came from and the people who brought us here. So there you go. There's my top three. No episode numbers, but links will be in the show notes, everybody.
Woody, are you scrolling?
Scratch another
Are
couple
you
off,
scratching?
probably.
No. I was scrolling. I was kind of hoping that Hutch would cross off some of mine.
You've got 113 episodes to choose
that's the
from.
problem. The
There's so
problem
many
is,
good ones.
my brain is so small and it's been hit so many times with hard, rubber pucks that I have trouble thinking beyond the recent. And I said that Sudsy, Sudarshan Maharaj would be on our top list. And so I got to put Sudsy on the top 10. It gets tougher after that. That was just a couple episodes
You
ago.
went back like 2 episodes.
I know. I told you guys I'm not that bright. Francois Lair, because it was episode 100 and it's Francois Lair, and that was a great conversation. Despite the
Darren and I
lawnmower in the
agreed to
background.
leave that one for you just so you'd have one to pick.
Yeah. And Hutch, sorry, I was making some notes here. Like you said, Stefan Waite, right?
No, I didn't. Although he's on my list right here, because what an incredible opportunity that was for us.
Yeah, so that was on mine because we got to do that one in Montreal at the practice facility, and we actually ended up doing the interview in the coach's office where the coaches sort of all do their preparations there out at the facility. So that was pretty high on my list.
What's good about that one too is you can feel that in listening to that episode, that conversation that you guys had with Steph. You can feel the history and the excitement and the cool factor come through that episode.
Yeah, so that's I guess that's 3. I was gonna say Elvis Merzlikins in 94 and Jeremy Swayman at 67 because I can't do lists.
That's only 9. Although
yeah. We've done a great job of doing a roundup that probably belonged in episode 100, didn't it?
Yes.
Looking back on our first 120.
Can we agree to do episode 1 as a group when we got together and package that first episode like that? That was Roberto Luongo,
Sonia DiBiase, absolutely. That's
Sonia.
Yeah, we're mutual on that, all 3 of us.
2 great guests, and
The
Woody
story
doing it in his car
has,
as well made it even better. So.
Have we all done an episode from the car? I have.
I haven't done an interview, but I did this part of an episode sitting in a parking lot in Kelowna. So yes,
that counts.
Just after Net 360.
Counts.
How many car rides have we got so far? Like we got Eric Comrie was in the car after a round of golf in Kelowna. We got Luongo in the car while driving. We got Ian Clark in the car. And Freddie,
I had Kay Whitmore.
There was a little
Kay Whitmore in the car.
Little Freddie Anderson too, where I was in the car with Freddie, and then we've certainly had a few guests in the car. Marty Biron was definitely on a drive one day, but yeah, we've actually done a few. I recorded this part of the podcast in the car while parked on the side of the road in PEI. That's right. I remember that. That's so right. Yeah, we've had a lot of journeys, and now we'll get into another one with Alex Nedeljkovic coming up in our Sense Arena VR feature interview, and just exploding onto the scene. And you started it off, that conversation about where he was at the start of the year and having to pass through waivers, and then the anxiety and the nerves of Alex at the start, and now he's in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we'll get to that. But the gear segment is brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports story, thehockeyshop.com, and dealing with another one of those secondary price points. But the excitement in the two of you, Woody, about this Bauer 3X line is extreme. Was it tangible? Did it come through? Yeah, the gloves were nice, but just the amount of features they have added, I'll leave it for the gear segment to explain them all, but the amount of pro-level features that they have added to a second price point pad, basically the only thing you don't get is something that most companies don't have other than Bauer. So it's really not a stretch to say that this is a second price point product that can start to be compared to top price point products, from other brands. So it's, there's a reason we're excited, Darren. So I'll let Cam fill the listeners in on the rest.
And the best part is it's a line of equipment that moms and dads and the boys and the girls can all agree on, and you rec leaguers and amateur goaltenders can all embrace, because you're getting a quality product at that secondary price point. It's the gear segment, brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports story, thehockeyshop.com. Cam and Woody down in the basement.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, or as we at In Goal Magazine like to call it, Goalie Utopia, surrounded by the latest, the greatest, and in this case, a little bit of both. Brand new gear. It's always an exciting time of year. The Bauer 3X line. This is, again, we're into that second price point down, where we tend at In Goal to focus a little bit sometimes too much, on just the pro level gear. At the expense of, gear that I think a lot of us beer leaguers, a lot of kids coming up in youth hockey, right up into, high-end youth hockey. The gear is still good enough for them. And that is definitely the case with the Bauer new 3X line. This is damn near a pro product, Cam. I've been really impressed with this line. You had it on the ice. Before we go through the features, what's just the initial feedback? This is obviously the second price point down for Bauer underneath the Hyperlight line. Cam, hit me with the highlights.
They're awesome. Yeah, they're awesome. Rarely do I really get super, super excited about a mid-range level product. I do get a little bit laser focused on, the pro category, but, this is definitely well caught my eye, well worth the attention that it is starting to get and garner. And, definitely gets my big giant thumbs up of approval. A lot of features that have come down from the Pro Series that have been refined and brought into a mid-level product that just hasn't been seen before at this price point.
Well, let's start with the big one, because one of the big parts for the Hyperlight line is the new Stabila Flex knee. We saw it with the Stabila Slide knee in the Ultrasonic, where they incorporated the knee. They built it right into the face of the pad to help you get to the ice better, help the pad seal better butterfly balance. Stabila Flex was the same idea, incorporated with a little bit more mobility, a little bit more flex to it. They've actually brought this into the second price point. I got to be honest, I didn't see that coming. That's a big step.
It's huge win, huge upgrade, great feature in terms of for performance value out of the pad. Like this,
how does it feel on the ice?
It puts it right on par with the Pro Pad.
Wow.
And that kind of, again, feel and again, that increase in performance out of the pad is just, it can't be ignored. And is definitely well worth your time in checking out. Some other quick features about the pad that we should be aware of. So again, in tune with their Vapor series, this is a softer flex pad. You really can get a lot of flex out of it. However, the core is good enough that it pops right back to where it needs to be. Still features their CurveX composite on the inside. Rebounds aren't going to be as hot because they're not using their Cortex skin on the pad between that and the Hyperlight. But hey, you got to save somewhere.
Well, so let's talk about that, because obviously there is a difference.
Yes.
When I talk about this being a pro level pad in feel, and some of the performance benefits on it, there are differences between the Hyperlight Pro and the 3X line. So let's focus on those quickly. Now, in terms of sliding, you can tell me how it felt, but you still sort of maintain that hard block, that hard inner edge. For the most part, it's maybe not quite as stiff on the face of the pad, and that's because, as you mentioned, the one thing you're not getting in this pad is the skin, is that Cortex skin that has that super hard inside edge and has those really active rebounds off it. That said, this is a more traditionally built skin along the lines of what every other product is offering right now.
So if I was going to be super nitpicky, yes, I did notice a minute difference in terms of slidability, and a little bit that could be considered the resistance from the other gusset on the pad. That said, we're splitting hairs here, like to a point where it's like, you know what, I wouldn't say it makes or break it for the pad.
Still slides really well.
Exactly. So that can't be ignored. Again, I did notice not as heavy as a rebound off of it, but again, there's got to be a difference there. Boot remains very soft and flexible as well. Again, allowing you to get over top of that pad easy. Also, when you're down on that butterfly, because it is a very flat boot, it still allows you to angle it so you're not kicking that rebound straight back at the shooter. Strapping system, the exact same as we are seeing on the Hyperlight. So they got their Tune Fit 2.0. What that all means, one strap, adjustable, so there's not the different sizes to it as there has been in the past. We do have their balance plate pillow. Now, the one that I currently have in my hand is actually a bit of an earlier sample, so this pillow will be trimmed down a little bit more on the actual true inline. We did call that out on the Hyperlight.
Same as what we saw on the Hyperlight.
That's correct.
I love that, again, much like the other one, like, again, the knee, the way they've integrated, the strap is actually built into the connection on the knee stack. You can quickly remove this tab if you don't want to go around the knee, if you want to go down. You can actually remove this strap altogether if you just want to use the inner strap, and it looks like there is positioning there for lack of a better term, the professor strap. I know they've got a name for it, Does it come with, or do you need to order that separately in terms of that upper calf strap?
It will be something that needs to be ordered separately.
But you have the ability to add it, that quote unquote
That's
professor strap. For some guys, that means being able to get rid of the knee strap altogether. Personally, I still keep it, but again, a lot of the same options that you would have in a Pro Pad, even if you do need to add that separately, the option is there. We've got the bungee style toe laces, like just a lot of features that feel like, you know, they say Pro,
Yes. So
even if the price doesn't.
that's correct. Enough about the pad. Blocker. Continuing off the momentum, even at the mid-range level last year with the 2X blocker, was already a fantastic blocker for the price point. What's changed, more so, we're going to see that on the back end. So they've added that tight fit glove feel to the actual palm of the glove itself, or blocker. So again, I'm not having that excess material all the way throughout as I put my fingers through. Great feature, adds to the good feel to the blocker already. Solid blocker. Again, rebounds aren't as hot as a Hyperlite because there has to be a change. It doesn't feature that core tech. It still does have a curved composite core, so it is a one-piece blocker.
It's going to help us hold its shape.
Exactly. So again, great option at that mid-level price point.
Glove?
I mean,
From a CCM equivalent, like just because it's the common vernacular, we'd call this a 590 break.
correct.
Real easy closure in it. Again, it's got the CurveX composite to help it maintain its shape. I'm guessing one of the differences would be probably not as much or no pour on in the palm in terms of that extra protection there. But again, a glove that when you put it on your hand, you know, I can put this on my hand compared to some of the pro level gloves on the wall and not feel much of a difference at all.
No, so they've really worked on adding some size to the pocket itself and just readjusting the actual like schematics of the glove. Worked on the closure by adding that extra rib on the inside just to help you wrap around. Biggest though on the backhand, as we open up the glove, we can see how the strapping has changed. Added that pad up and over top, which really helps to lock the upper portion of the palm into the glove and really help to get you around the break angle.
Oh, you can really feel the difference when you tighten that up.
Exactly, and it doesn't affect the closure. It just really helps you snug up that glove and get you wrapped around the break angle of it. So, great overall mid-range glove, great overall mid-range product, from, head to toe.
One that I think a lot of parents are going to like too, because listen, and Cam is the guy to come in and talk to. He'll steer you right in terms of the level your kids are playing at, the level you're playing at as a goaltender, and whether this is a realistic product for you. I can tell you in the past, we had Bauer in the 2X line, that mid-price point pad, we put it in a bantam, major bantam goaltender. No problems. Got through an entire season wearing it. Still had life in it afterwards. So, again, like that's major bantam. That's a pretty high level of hockey. 15-year-old goaltender. Starting to grow into his body, so there's a lot of weight and there's a lot of pressure on it, and that pad stood up no problem to a routine that was 5 times on the ice 5 times a week. So we talk about durability being one of the differences. There are some differences anytime you drop the price as much as you do to the next price point level, but I just think that gap has closed so much, especially in this new 3X pad, that it's something that a lot of goaltenders probably should consider. Especially if you're still growing and you might even grow through a set before the end of the year, like to not have to invest as a parent the full like $3,000 plus to go pro head to toe, to be able to get a pad for, what does this retail for? Are we in the $1,000 range for the pads?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, compared to $2,200, there is a lot of pad here for your money. So if you've got questions about it, if you want to know, Cam's always going to be a guy who will answer them honestly in terms of whether you need pro, whether this is an option for you. Do you need Hyperlite? Are you okay in a 3X? A lot of great features here. If you got more questions, make sure you give him a shout at.
Hold on.
I missed something?
Custom.
No, come on. You can't have a senior pad at this price point and custom?
Small nominal upcharge. I believe it's only $100 extra. You can get colors and your name. Put on. Like Pet Sharp blocker. Turnaround's about 8 weeks.
8 weeks, custom pads at a senior price point.
And intermediate, which 3X is also available at.
Intermediate and senior. That's me watching that is like a Griffey-esque home run into this is a home run for Bauer. Well done, guys.
604-589-8299, 1-800-567-7790. Give me a call.
I'm at a loss. Like, we'll just end it at that. Call Cam, hockeyshop.com. Check out the new Bauer 3X line. It's a winner.
Pad drop.
Giddy Cam's fun. I like Giddy Cam. We need to hear Giddy Cam more often. Stop bringing him down so much.
Giddy Cam's just giddy because he got to spend some time on the ice with the 3X line. And I think we should remind people that the guys at the hockey shop, the crew at the hockey shop, the goalies at the hockey shop, I should say, because it's not always just guys, they get the gear on the ice to try it out. And that's not just the pro line. So we were on the ice with Cam trying out Bauer 3X Pro for a day, as well as, Bauer 3X for a day, as well as the Bauer Hyperlight product. He's been in them both. He's got feedback from them both, as does his team. And that's why we shop there, is because they give you answers that come from a knowledge base of playing the position and loving the position.
That's why I'm on thehockeyshop.com every week, at least once a week, maybe twice, but at least once a week, sorting through things. Today, the feature interview is going to deal with a player that at the start of the season was actually passed through waivers, only because of a logjam in front of him with the Carolina Hurricanes, James Reimer and Peter Mrazek. But due to an injury and COVID and taxi squads, he got to be around the team a whole bunch more. And everybody else's miss in not picking him up, I still can't believe nobody claimed him, put in a claim. Everybody else's miss is the Carolina Hurricanes' gain, because Alex Nedeljkovic starting the Stanley Cup playoffs in goal for the top seed in that Central Division. It is a fabulous interview, and I can't wait to give you my reflections on what I take from it afterwards. But let's get over to Woody, who is sitting down with Alex, chatting about this journey that he has been on. It's the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR. Hutch.
Sense Arena VR, our good friends who bring this feature interview to us every week, are now into week 3 of their global skills competition. So if you're a Sense Arena user, as I know you two are, you can get on there. You can test your skills versus everybody else out there. If you're the top dog in the competition, you'll take away $1,000 to use for your training. Each week you can win $100, and they're going to take the best of the best on week 6 and give them a shot to claim supremacy. And I think it's just an awesome thing that they're doing, because it's an incredible training tool for technical reasons, puck tracking, one of the number one for us. But as Brian DeCord mentioned when you interviewed him, Woody, he talked about sort of the mental side of it, being able to use Sense Arena as part of your game day preparation to help you relax, to help you be prepared for stepping on the ice. I love this competition because it's actually ratcheting things up. Now every puck you miss has a bit of a consequence, because you're trying to beat the score of all those people, and you can go over and you can check out their scores on the leaderboard as soon as you've finished your drill. So I think the fact that they're sort of ratcheting things up here is a really, really great component. So Sense Arena, thank you so much for your sponsorship of all our feature interviews. And everybody, check it out. Just a great tool.
I thought Marc-Andre Fleury was really good, and I can't believe he didn't win week number 2 in the Sense Arena Skills Challenge, because he participated in a 20-minute challenge in game number 2 with the first period against the Minnesota Wild, and he was 100% in game number 2. That's what when I watched that game and that period, I thought, I'm watching a Sense Arena Skills Challenge right now, because they were firing from everywhere, and he was just kicking them out. But some of the scores that I've witnessed from the athletes are wild. Now, having gone through it, like, how do they do that?
Yeah, and you missed just like 2 pucks and you plunged down the leaderboard. So it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And then the tiebreakers, the reaction time. Like, wow, unbelievable. The Sense Arena VR Skills Challenge, check it out. It is an unbelievable aid, and it is the cheat code. But cheat codes are allowed in this regard. Make sure you are as prepared as you possibly can with Sense Arena VR. Here's Alex Nedeljkovic, starting goaltender for the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs. Our feature interview with Kevin Woodley.
Really thrilled to have Alex Nedeljkovic joining us on the In Goal Radio podcast for the first time. I've only had a chance to chat with you once, Alex. Your first NHL game and first NHL win here in Vancouver. So I'm really excited about this because I've heard all kinds of great things from a friend of the program, so to speak, Paul Schoenfelder, your goalie coach there. Let's start with right now and this season to go from where you were at the beginning of the year, and we've all read about waivers. And the fact that the Hurricanes just kind of were in a spot where they felt they had to put you on them. How nerve-wracking was that? And how tough was it at that point to see, a path to what this year has become?
Yeah, like you said, it was a little nerve-wracking. I was pretty anxious that 24 hours there. It was obviously my first experience going through waivers, so, I really didn't know what to expect. But, obviously there's a little bit of disappointment there, right? You were, was hoping maybe it would be given a little bit more of a chance in camp coming into the year to get to play and get to have a bigger role out of the get-go. But, things happen different ways. And fortunately, I think I was lucky enough to go unclaimed and to be able to stay with the organization. Obviously it's been a great 5 years with them so far. Now to finally be able to get a chance and to play a lot this year, it's been nothing short of incredible.
I was going to say, because there really was no preseason, right? There wasn't much of an opportunity for anyone to, like a lot of these decisions, it seems this year, maybe more than any, were just based on, contract status and things like that, taxi squad, and just so many weird parameters to it. I certainly know they didn't want to lose you, so it all works out. From there to now, how has the confidence built with opportunity as you've gotten into games and had a chance to sort of get the NHL, get your feet under you in the NHL, and just, it feels like from the outside, Alex, like you look just more and more and more confident as this year has gone on. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think that you see that with a lot of guys, especially in our group. You got Jake Bean's been playing a bigger role, an increased role. It seems every night he's out there. He's playing more and more minutes, and same thing with guys up front like Morgan Geekie and Steven Lorenz. They've been regulars in the lineup throughout the year, whether it was just due to injury or some play by some other guys for whatever reason. They've come in, they've stepped in, and as the year's gone on, they've been trusted with more ice time and bigger roles and responsibilities. So you could say that for anybody, and I think for me, it was just the more games I got to play, the more opportunities, I had, and I was able to take advantage of. And when you do well in those games, obviously it makes it a lot easier to have that confidence.
Did it help this year having Paul there as a guy you'd had in the American Hockey League, his first year up with Carolina as the goaltending coach with the big club? Like, in what ways can that relationship help you in terms of whether it was sort of managing those emotions of going through waivers or building up as the season went on and finding that confidence?
Yeah, I think it helped a lot. He's obviously very familiar with me, spending the 3 years together in Charlotte, and it was like you really couldn't have asked for anything better because, like I said, he kind of had an idea of the game day routines and things like that, and practice habits and whatnot. So it was almost just a seamless transition for the two of us together. And when we got out in practice, like at the beginning of the year there, when it was when I was at the taxi squad, even him staying out there the extra time or coming out before the main group and getting to skate, spending that 45 minutes an hour getting to work with him. And it actually was kind of good because we got to work on maybe a few more specific or goalie oriented things, maybe more so than we would have gotten to do with on normal practices. So like I said, it was awesome to have him here, and for him to kind of go through the stretch with me, it's been great.
So for the two of you, when you have that opportunity to work together, whether it's beginning of the season or as the year moves on, what do you see? What are the things that make you feel good as a goaltender? Are there certain drills? Are there certain things that you see as a foundation or that you work on, maybe if you've gone a little stretch between games early in the year, that sort of help ground you and feel good about your game? Everybody seems to have different ones. What are the ones for Alex Nedeljkovic?
I don't know if it's maybe certain drills. I think it's just feeling the puck and seeing the puck. And I know for my first few years, it was like when I got a chance at camp or getting called up and just going through practice, maybe he felt a little behind, or he was kind of like it was like a big rush, when you get in the net and guys are zipping pucks by your ears, and it's a completely different pace up here than it is in juniors or in the American League or in the minors. So, maybe like something like that where you kind of like, oh my God, like, these guys are the real deal. But then this year it's been the more and more you get out there, it just kind of turns into another practice. It's like, you're just kind of doing your thing. You're going out there and you realize, yeah, these guys are in the NHL, but so am I. I'm here for a reason too. And you just got to kind of like put it in the back of your head, like get it out of your head that these guys are who they are, and you got to tell yourself, well, I am, who I am. I'm myself, and I can definitely play at this level. So.
See them as peers as opposed to guys you used to look up to. Were there moments or one moment along the way that was really reinforced, or was it like, it sounds like maybe a gradual process?
I think it's been a pretty gradual process. Obviously the biggest thing is you get comfortable with the guys in the locker room, and I think that's where everything kind of really fully starts to like kind of like take over on the ice. You get a little comfortable around the guys. You start chit-chatting with everybody, and you're not really, you hang out and you have more conversations with maybe some of the older guys or some of the vets that have been in the league a long time, like instead of maybe just as opposed to hanging out with some of the younger guys that you've been with the past few years. So that's been, like I said, probably a more gradual thing than anything, is just getting more comfortable. And we have a great group of guys in that locker room. So for anybody, it wouldn't take long for you to just kind of be yourself and get settled in if you got in here.
Okay, so let's go back here. I want to rewind things a little bit. I wanted to talk about this season, but I also wanted to sort of find a little bit about how you got started. How did Alex become a goalie? How did you fall in love with this position?
Well, I started, my parents kind of just got me into like ice skating when I was like 5, 6 years old. And I think it turned into organized hockey, probably not too far off after that, 6 or 7. And then I'd say, yeah, right around that time, probably just the same thing. Like there was a goalie clinic going on at the local rink that I was skating at, and they told my mom and dad that was something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to try it out. So they ended up getting me a set of pads, and it just kind of stuck, and we kind of went with it. And that's the biggest thing, is I can't thank my parents enough, and even more so my parents and my brother and 2 sisters. They sacrificed a lot to let me play and to take me around the country, really, and around, not even the country, but around the world. We traveled internationally a few times, and not many kids, especially kids that don't play sports, but even kids that are in sports, they don't get to travel to places that we've gone to often. So I was pretty fortunate as a kid to be given a lot of opportunities to grow and succeed from the get-go.
Now, you're originally from, if I got this correct, Cleveland, right? Or I know Ohio, but...
Yeah, Parma, Ohio, yep.
Okay, there we go. So was that a function of like, not necessarily outgrowing the minor hockey there, or like I read some things about how you had gotten those opportunities to go, play elsewhere and work with goalie coaches elsewhere. Was that a sort of an active thing in terms of seeking out new opportunities and new voices, and something you and your parents strove to do? As a young goalie, trying to find new instruction all over the place, or was it just a matter of getting opportunities to play in different spots?
I think the instructions part of it, like in learning, growing up, and working with different goalie coaches, was more just trying to find the resources to do it. Right, we had gotten some recommendations for guys. Worked with Shane Clifford in Pittsburgh, John Elkins in Toronto for a few years, and then when I made the jump to Michigan, I worked with Stan Matwiv and Bandit's goalie schools. Obviously, Stan was my goalie coach in Plymouth when I was playing for the Whalers there in junior. So just really, that was, trying to get the right coaching and kind of learning different things. My parents didn't have a hockey background. So as much as I was learning about the game, my dad was also taking in a lot of it too, and trying to understand it as best he could, and tried to help me out as best he could too. So, he never really claimed to knowing a lot about the game, his biggest thing was just, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And you got to listen to what your coaches say. So from that part, taking me to Pittsburgh, to Michigan, to Toronto, just to get lessons, not even to play games, but to just get lessons, it's something incredible, and you can't really thank them enough for it.
Shane, John, Stan, those are all names that we know here at In Goal, and people that we've talked to over the years, goalie coaches with great reputations. Were there lessons there as a young goalie? I think sometimes, whether it's junior or for some guys it's in pro, you can get bounced around a little bit, get a bunch of different voices, and it can be tempting at times to sort of try and do something the goalie coach of the day, the guy you're working with at that point on a team, wants you to do, and a real balancing act for some guys in terms of, hey, what makes me good, and is what this guy's asking me to do gonna help that? Did all those different voices at a young age help you sort of find that balance between, new ideas and sort of finding what works for you and trusting that balance between the two?
Well, I think as I got older and I kind of understood how I needed to play for myself and I was just kind of being able to think for myself on the ice, I really started to kind of mold and to get that mold of like who I was as a goalie. I think when you're younger, right, you go to a goalie coach and they tell you, you need to hold your glove this way and you need to stand at, in this part of the crease, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. When you're younger, you don't really have a voice. So you have to do what they say, right? That's what they're there for, and they all mean well, they're obviously trying to make you better. And in their eyes, that's how you have to do it. So, but what I've found as I've gotten older and I've worked with different people is I don't find that there's one way. It's not like a hat size where it's like one size fits all, or like, one way to play the goalie is going to fit everybody. It's the right way for everybody. You have to be able to do what works best for you. And what works best for you might be what one guy preaches. It might be a combination of what four guys preach. So, whatever that is, you have to be able to figure that out yourself as you get older. And I think that's what I've really started to do lately, is just kind of be my own goalie. Well, I shouldn't say lately, but when I got to juniors and got drafted and turned pro, I really just kind of figured out my game. And then working with Paul these last few years, he obviously he understands it quite a bit and he knows it. And it's just been trying to fine tune the little details and the fundamentals in it.
That's really well said. I think that's what, at least for me, that's what I love about the position, right? There is no one way to do anything. There's no right, there's no wrong for every goaltender. The formula is different. If I were to ask you to describe your formula after hearing that answer, what would some of the foundational elements be?
Well, I feel like I'm pretty athletic. You don't see me really getting caught back in the crease as much as maybe some bigger guys, I guess you could say. You tend to see those guys that are 6'4", 6'5". They stay a little bit more back because they're a little bit bigger, so they can kind of give up that depth. But being a shorter guy, you have to come out, you have to challenge and whatnot. But I think the biggest thing that maybe separates me from a lot of guys is probably just like the confidence and the willingness to play the puck. And I think that's really becoming something that's going to be incorporated into the position a lot more, in the coming years. I think you've seen it in the past in guys like Marty Brodeur, Ron Hextall, Marty Turco. Like, they were the best at handling the puck in their times. But I think now you're starting to see a lot of guys can do it and can play it. What's the word I'm looking for? Efficiently. They can be efficient with it. But I think sometimes I maybe not get carried away, but I try to do a little extra. Try the less time we can spend in our zone, especially the way that we like to play here. We like to play fast and kind of in your face, so if we're spending less time chasing the puck and more time with it, it's obviously benefiting us a lot.
And is that been a learning process? Because I definitely wanted to ask about the puck handling, but we see the ones that make the highlights, right? We see the beautiful stretch pass for the game-winning overtime goal assist, which, I mean, gorgeous, by the way. But is it finding the balance between those opportunities and making the simple plays that allow your teammates to get out of their own zone and when to do which. Is that just come with experience? Do you and Paul do video? Is it conversations? Is it just sort of getting to know situations as you go on and when to push it and when to just set it up?
Yeah, like you said, you don't really. It's rarely ever a highlight reel thing where you see the goalie playing the puck unless it's a breakout pass or a breakaway pass that leads to a goal. The biggest thing is I think you got to be efficient with it. And like I said, whether you play it or you handle the puck 5 times in a game or 50 times in a game, you have to be able to be efficient and do it well and not cause any more stress to your own team's game, right? Like,
Right.
You can play the puck 20 times in a game, but if you're turning it over 10 out of those 20 times, you turn it over 50% of the time, well, are you really doing that much more good? Probably not. So it's finding that balance, of how many times you do it, where do you do it. And part of it was growing up, I just loved handling the puck. I loved messing around with it. And as I got older and I was able to do more, I was able to make better passes and whatnot. That was something that my dad would always tell me or remind me of, would be like, don't just go out and play the puck just to play the puck, right? Like, that's not what you're doing. You're going out there to try to help break out your defense and break out your forwards and spend less time in your own end. So if you can do it well and you make good passes or you clear the puck well and you get it up on the glass, things like that, you're really benefiting everybody. But when you start just kind of throwing pucks around and, blindly making plays or maybe not making the smartest or the easy play, you're really not benefiting anybody and you're just kind of feeding into that forecheck from the other team. So that's the biggest thing. And Paul doesn't really do too much video with it. Occasionally, you get the game where, I like to handle the puck a lot. So there's going to be mistakes throughout the game. And sometimes more games, in some games, there's maybe 1 or 2 more mistakes than others. And he'll just kind of like, just little reminders, like, this is what I saw, and just kind of talk to me about the situation and whatnot, and just try to keep everything grounded and make sure we're making the easy plays first.
Sounds like your dad played a big role in you becoming the puck handler you are. Were there, you'd mentioned before, sort of guys like Brodeur and Turco and Hextall, like were you influenced outside of your dad? Were you influenced by those goalies? Did you watch how they did things, or was there anybody else that sort of helped you get to this point where puck handling is such a strength of your game?
Well, yeah, I'd say it was really those guys. It was, the Marty Brodeurs and Hextall and Turco. There was really those guys that I, when watching, I'd see how much they played the puck, and obviously Marty and Hextall both scored goals in their careers. So it was, something that I saw, and I was like, that'd be really cool to do. As a goalie, be something that you don't see very often. So if you ever got the opportunity to do it and to score, it would be great. But the voice of, the voice of reason would probably be my dad. And like I said, he would always tell me and remind me, like, you don't have to do anything fancy. Like, a lot of those times, like, they weren't making these long, crazy stretch passes. They were just making simple, for the most part, simple tape to tape, short passes to the defenseman, and then the D-man would make the next pass. And then that's usually what you see, right? You see maybe 2 or 3 passes in a normal breakout to get out of the zone. And he would kind of explain it to me like that, where it's like, you don't need to make a pass from behind the net to the red line. You don't need to do that. You just need to get it from your stick onto your defenseman's stick, and he'll take care of the rest, right? Because that's their job. And my job is just when I have it, just try to make it a little bit easier for him. So really he was just kind of there to remind me about that and to kind of settle me down at times.
There's 2 parts to puck handling, at least in my mind, Alex, and maybe I'm wrong on this. And we've been blessed to talk to some of those names that you mentioned over the years about this, especially Marty Brodeur. And so to me, the 2 parts are the stuff you're talking about in terms of when to do what and the reads and reading a forecheck. And then the other part is just the puck skills. And Marty used to talk about, like, if the practice was at the other end of the ice for 10 minutes and he was in his end waiting for the practice to come back to him, he would just shoot pucks, crossbar, post, find a teammate that he could hit, going back and forth at the blue line, hit with breakout passes. What for you, like, where did the skill part of it come in? Was it just shooting pucks? Did you work in the summer on it, or was it just natural? How did that skill element, outside of the reading the game element, how did that develop for you? I'm looking for advice, maybe even for young kids that are like, man, I love watching Alex Nedeljkovic handle the puck, and I want to be able to do it like him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That there's two parts. There's the reading the plays, and then there's the actual skill and handling it. For me, it was just, yeah, I get like, if I had time to myself in practice, I would be doing it. I would be shooting pucks or like kind of stick handling with it and doing things for a purpose. If I like trying to shoot a puck, I figured out the right way. They're not the right way, but what way was best for me. If I kind of held my hand over the stick or if I held it under the stick, and where I was able to get more control out of it. So doing that, I would shoot pucks just like you see, like a lot of kids now, they're shooting pucks in the driveway or in their parents' garage. I was doing the same thing just with my goalie gloves and a goalie stick. I'd be in my parents' garage shooting pucks. So you get older, you get stronger, you get more confident in doing it, and you can start to stick handle a little bit better. You have that control. So things like that are just things that you have to really work on and yourself and really have the motivation to do it. I had coaches growing up that would, they would always remind me like, this is great. Like if you can do this and you can do this well and make this a part of your skill set, it's going to go a long way and guys are going to appreciate it. Some of my some of the coaches that have played defense that I had growing up, they would always talk about how you could make guys' lives so much easier by just being able to make a simple play or by maybe clearing the puck once or twice a game on your own. So, there's two parts of it, and neither one of them is going to become something where it's just like one day you wake up and you're really good at it. You got to work at both sides of it in order to get to where you want to be with it.
Love it. Not to stick with puck handling too much, but you said it's not often the highlight reel, it's the simple plays. But come on, you've got a couple highlight reels on there. 2 goals in 2 leagues already under your belt, East Coast Hockey League and American Hockey League. You talked about seeing those guys score, and that would be really cool. What's it like to actually live it? I think for most of us, it's just a pipe dream, but to score a goal as a goalie and to do it twice, do you remember those? Like, what stands out about each one?
Yeah, I definitely remember them. The first one, it was actually my second game in the ECHL. It was my first year pro, and that was one of the brighter spots of that season. Just as a whole, it really wasn't a great showing for me in the American League. I kind of got off to a rough start, and then when I went down to the East Coast, I was able to kind of get my feet under me a little bit, and that was just it was exciting. It was kind of like it's actually nice in a way because it was my first time down there, so I was with the guys and the team for maybe 3 days at that point in total. So still was trying to kind of get to know everybody a little bit, and they were still trying to figure out who I was, and obviously scoring it just makes it that much easier. It's something that guys are raving about, guys are talking about, and it just kind of like relaxed a little bit. It was something really cool and something I always wanted to do. So it just kind of like was able to be myself a little bit easier in maybe a shorter amount of time. And then the second one, the next year, we were in Charlotte at home. This one I was a little bit more maybe aware of in doing it, because the first time it was just off the center ice face off. They had just scored, and they dumped the puck in right at me. I just kind of dropped it and shot it. Didn't really know if the goalie was out of the net or not. I was just like, let's keep the puck moving and keep the clock going, and if we get it, we get it. If, it goes in, it goes in and whatnot. So I kind of did it, shot it, and then I looked up and I'm like, oh, like, this is going in. But the second time they dumped kind of similar thing. It was a break up in the neutral zone, and the guy just flipped it cross ice, and I ended up going out and was able to stop it at the bottom of the circle before it got past the goal line. And I peeked up my head real quick before I grabbed the puck and just noticed that the other goalie was heading to the bench. So I grabbed it, took my chance, and that one was a little bit maybe more special. Just you got to do it at home in front of a crowd, in front of fans. And I had been with the guys for a while. I think that one I scored in March. So the year we had already gone through almost 3/4 of the year at that point. So you were a little bit more comfortable with everything then. And, it was just 2 exciting times. And then I tried to do it again the year after that. I hit the side of the net, maybe tried to do it a few more times, and it didn't go so well. I think one time actually it cost us a goal, and we ended up losing that game in overtime. So that really didn't go too well. So I've kind of toned it down a little bit, and I've kind of like reminded myself, look, it's great, it's awesome to do it, but you can't force it. It's just something that when the opportunity's there, you need to take advantage of it.
Up by 2, the golden rule at this point then, after that one bit you?
I don't know. Maybe not. You gotta read the situation. So if we're, I'd be more comfortable. I'll say that I'd be more comfortable doing it with a 2-goal lead. But if I had the time to do it and, it wasn't rushed, basically if you had the perfect scenario, with a 1-goal lead, I'd probably go for it. But again, lots got to go right. So.
I was going to say that comes with confidence, and you've clearly got it there. Everybody always talks, and last one, I promise on this, but everybody always talks about, you can make your defensemen's lives easier. And I've had this debate, with non-goalie people. Mike Smith is a guy that sometimes gets picked on when the mistakes end up in his own net, but you talk to the defenseman on the team and, 100% same thing. Like, I want him out there handling it because that's better than getting plastered into the end boards. Like, it makes our life easier as defensemen. Do you ever think about how it makes your life easier as a goaltender? Is that part of the equation? Like, if I get us out of our own end, that's less time we're spending here. We're transitioning. We're feeding our transition game. We're not defending. Have you ever thought about it that way in terms of, hey, it makes my life easier too? And can it keep you engaged in low shot games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing too, that like when you talk about doing video with it and talking to Paul about it, really it's sometimes it's not even like looking at video, but it's more just acknowledging, like in a game, you had a lot of touches tonight, and it sometimes it doesn't, like you don't notice it until you really think about it. Like if a team only had, maybe like 20 shots on like in a game, it could, you would, most times, you would say, we played a really good defensive style game and we didn't give them much, which is probably true. But I think not a lot of, but part of it is that puck handling. And if you do it right and you do it well, you're, like you said, you spend a lot less time in your own end. So there's not that, like, you maybe get rid of, say, 3 or 4 in zone, offensive zone shifts for the opposing team, right? And that's 3 or 4
Right.
more shifts for your team to play in the offensive zone. So, and it goes back to you start putting less stress on your defensemen. They're not maybe going back facing the boards and expecting to get, run from behind, or even like just take a hit. One less hit a game for each of your D-men, like that goes a long way. It goes a long way in them having confidence in you and just understanding that if they dump a puck in and they see me get it, they kind of like, all right, Ned's got it, get in the spot to make a play, and then we're going to get out of the zone here. So.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I didn't mean to spend that much time on puck handling, but I've always admired how well you handle it. Even that, I remember that first game here in Vancouver, your first start at least, just it seemed to really settle you down as well, with a couple really slick early touches. And so I wanted to ask all those questions because I know there's a lot of young goalies that they want to get better at it, but sometimes you got to realize it's work that gets you there.
Right.
A couple more. USA Hockey. How much? I mean, you've played at the Holinka. You've played at the World Junior Championships. I don't know how much. We see a lot of really good young American goaltenders coming up right now. I cover one here in Vancouver in Thatcher Demko. We've heard about USA Hockey's 51-30 program and that ambitious concept of, hey, 51% of the starts by the year 2030. Do you guys pay much attention to what each other is doing? I talked to Anthony Stolers recently. Is there any sort of union within the union from the American Goaltender Union? Is there a subcategory?
Yeah, I think so. I obviously grew up and I played a few games and a few tournaments with Thatch. We both went to and worked with Stan in Michigan there for a few years, so I got to know him a little bit. And obviously playing World Juniors with him the one year, just got to be a little bit more comfortable and get to know him a little better. But yeah, I think so. You see these other guys and American-born goalies and where they're coming from and the different routes that everybody takes to get there. It's interesting to see and to keep in touch. And you're really lucky to get to know all these guys and figure out what makes them tick and how they go about, their game and what it takes for them to get ready and to play at a high level. So it's been cool. It's been fun to see, especially for Thatch, how he's been able to grow and the role that he's kind of taken on there in Vancouver. And obviously it really kind of, the opportunity for him really rose in the bubble last year. And I think he just kind of picked up where he left off and ran with it this year.
And last one, you mentioned it once in terms of style and the bigger guys playing a little deeper, but being a goaltender under 6 foot is not easy these days, just because the perceptions that sometimes come with it. We've hit this league where, to be honest with you, I've had a couple of goalie coaches think that the sweet spot is a lot smaller than maybe what teams chase. Like the sweet spot is maybe 6'2", 6'3", not 6'5", 6'6", and yet it's the 6'5", 6'6" guys that often get the opportunities. And sometimes the guys who are under 6 foot don't get the same shake. Has there been points along the way where it's been a challenge for you, or where maybe the perception of it has been a challenge? And is there any advice you'd give to other small goaltenders that are maybe, battling that same stigma? Because clearly it hasn't been an issue for you, but sometimes it's an issue regardless of performance for guys.
Yeah, I think there's been a few scenarios, I think a few times where, I've been overlooked or maybe not overlooked, but I didn't get the job or get a spot on whatever team. And you kind of look at it and you see that the two guys that they picked over you are, 6'3" or 6'4", and you kind of like, well, it's not my fault that I'm only 6 foot or however tall you are, right? Like not everybody can be 6'4" or 6'5", even 6'2", right? Like not everybody, that's out of your control. There's nothing you can do about that. The only thing you can do is just worry about yourself and do what makes you a good goalie, right? Like focus on the things that you can control. And that's showing up to the rink every day, working hard, working on the fundamentals, being sharp there, working on your mental game, because that's a huge part of it now is how you approach the game mentally and how you respond to the goals that you let in, because everybody's going to let in goals, whether you're 6'6" or you're 5'6". Everybody's going to give up goals. It's just how you respond to them, right? You can't let 1 go to 2 and 2 go to 3. You got to be able to kind of move on from it, shut the door, and get ready for that next shot. Because it doesn't matter if you're, like I said, if you're 6 foot or you're 6'6", if you're giving up goals left and right, you're not going to go very far. So that would be my biggest advice to kids that are maybe shorter than maybe the stereotypical goalie would be, is to just kind of do your thing and worry about yourself and don't let what other people think about the position affect how you play, right? Like, what works for you, and whatever you have to do to get to the next level, you got to do.
Well said. Well said. You mentioned mental game. I said that was the last one, but when you brought it up, I got to ask, is there anything that's changed there? Anybody that you've worked with that's helped you, develop that mentality, that strength of, it's easy. It's always been easy to say one shot at a time, but sometimes it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely probably the hardest thing is getting that right mental state. And I've been working with Dr. Saul Miller. He's actually in Vancouver there. He's based out of there. And for the last, since my draft year, so going on about 7 years, no, not 7 years, like 5, 6 years. And really that's kind of, I think, really helped me take my game to the next level, is just understanding, every day is a new day. Every time you get to the rink, it's a fresh start. It's a new day. There's really no reason to show up the day after maybe a bad loss and kind of like dwell on it, because it's over with. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it. So you just kind of show up to work every day with a good attitude, the right attitude that, you're a good goalie and you're going to stop pucks. And that's what you do, is you stop pucks, you make saves. And then there's obviously a little bit more to it, when you get talking to them and you dive deeper into the mental game and how you approach things. But that's been the biggest thing, is just kind of like almost just like a breath of fresh air, like, not really overthinking much. And just, that's the biggest thing, is just going out there and doing it and playing the game and having fun. And that's, at the end of the day, it's a game. It's a game. It's always going to be a game at the end of the day. Whether it doesn't matter if somebody pays you $15 million or if you're playing beer league at your local ice rink, it's just a game, and it's if you have fun, that's what matters. So.
Well said. Ned, I really appreciate the time. I look forward to the day when we're back into the locker rooms and I can see here in Vancouver. Every once in a while, I see Saul in the rink talking to guys after morning skates. So I look forward to the next time you're through town. We're back to normal times and traveling across the border, and the Carolina Hurricanes are in town, and I get to see you and Saul at the rink. Thank you so much for the time today. Congratulations on the recent engagement. Congratulations on the season. Keep it rolling in the playoffs. And thanks again for joining us on the In Goal Radio podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. A winner, a guy that's overcome some challenges with people ahead of him and didn't get bogged down. And the part that jumped out to me, and maybe this is I'm giving too much credit to the taxi squad and COVID, but he mentioned just being around the veterans and being around the same room so much and being able to get comfortable or in that environment and not just being the guy that's being shuffled back and forth, but being part of the team. And that helped him get comfortable and aided his adjustment to the National Hockey League and being feeling part of about that group. And I thought that was a really key drop by him.
I think that's massive. And you heard him talk about it in his minor league experience too. That adjustment period, both in the East Coast and the American League, and how he, because of scoring, managed to get in with the guys in the American League just a little bit faster. That comfort level is so important for a goaltender of every age level, and it's fun to see that it's true at the National League level as well.
Like we feel goalies are always sort of on the outside. That's just a part of the position. But to feel part of the team, I think sometimes we overlook that. Any goaltender can be called up and stand on his head and be great, and he's wearing the same uniform as the other guys. But there's that point where only they know when they're truly part of the group. Woody?
Yeah, to me, that was good. To me, the part that jumped out was just the whole entire attitude he had toward, like just the openness with which he shared things with us. On the eve, literally the eve of his first Stanley Cup playoff start, didn't even know it was coming. Like I didn't know he was starting the next day. This was all, he set this up and picked the time, and you couldn't have told. My assumption would have been he wasn't playing. I think there's a combination of calmness and swagger. Can you have both? Like, can those two things coexist? I think he exudes it, right? Like there's a little bit of that, and you see it in the puck handling comments, right? And like, I fully expect him to go for it in these playoffs, right? If he gets that opportunity. I think in the playoff,
How many does he have?
he's got one in the Coast and one in the A.
Okay.
So, and he says he talked about there, he's had some near misses too. So, he can sling it, but I think the beautiful thing there is, and he talked about it, it's just the leaves, right? Like it's when to sling it, it's when to leave it, it's when to make an over, when to make a quick up, making sure the D are on the same page. We saw the communication cost the Washington Capitals an overtime goal and a key game and a crucial point in the series, double OT, because of a gaffe behind the net. And so to have a guy that can swashbuckle but understands at this young age and this early stage of his NHL portion of his career that that's not the end all be all is really nice. And I think that probably went into the decision making for this start. When I looked at the numbers going into these playoffs, Peter Mrazek in a small sample had the best adjusted save percentage in the entire NHL. He was the only guy in the league that was better than Marc-Andre Fleury with over 200 chances. But obviously he didn't have near enough chances to be in the conversation for trophies. Nedeljkovic was sort of mid-teens. Like his adjusted save percentage was not even a third as good as Mrazek's. Still good, like again, like mid-teens first-year pro. But the interesting thing is the expected save percentage was massively different, and I mean massively. Mrazek's, like, it's a 30-point difference. It'd be like, I play behind a team, and they my expected should be 900 save percentage, but somebody else goes and plays behind the team and it should be 930. Same team. And the only thing I can think of, and it starts to, when you start to watch him play, it makes sense, is that in some cases you'll see a young goalie come in and he has an easier defensive environment. We've got lots of examples of this, and it's the team insulating him. We got to make sure we protect this young guy. And it doesn't last that long, certainly not as long as Ned played in the NHL this season. So the only other option then is his handle changes the game for them, changes how much time they spend in their own end. And in other words, he has an easier defensive environment because he helps create it. And I think there's a big part of that. We've seen it with some other guys, Mike Smith at times in his career. We saw it with Shesterkin and Lundqvist in New York last year. Igor was so assertive with the puck. And Henrik, much like Mrazek, barely got out and even stopped it. So to me, that's a big difference. And I think that's probably one of the reasons he's playing. And I've seen it in his first NHL start. His confidence here in Vancouver, that I remember texting the goalie coach, Paul Schoenfelder, after the game, like, you could see his confidence grow in his first NHL start. From the second he got out and made an assertive puck handle, his play everywhere else got better as well. So it's a neat sort of thing to watch. It's a cool formula, and it's cool to hear him talk so extensively about why he's successful at it.
I wasn't sure whether he had others in junior or minor hockey scored goals too as a professional from your conversation, but that's like he just sounds like he's had it on the radar forever, been able to do that, but then do other things with the puck and not just be able to loft it down the ice.
Yeah, that's the
Like
key
we all wanna
point, isn't
do.
it? I mean, we all have it on the radar. Everybody would
Yeah.
love to. My favorite part of that was when Woody essentially left it for him. So you're not going to try again until you're down up by 2. Well, no,
Yeah.
no, up by 1's fine.
Yeah.
It just depends. Got to pick your spots. You know what I'd love
Flower
to
did
do
try it too.
is I would love to meet and talk to some of the coaches who worked with him on the way up. And I don't mean goaltending coaches. I mean head coaches, because a goaltender can't develop like this just by playing around with the puck in practice. You have to get the opportunity to play the puck. You have to get the opportunity to touch the puck in practice. And a lot of guys right up to the NHL haven't really had that opportunity. How many times does a defenseman handle the puck in a practice versus a goaltender? How do you develop those skills? And do you work within a team system that allows you to do that? I mean, a lot of goaltenders, again, all the way up through, will go and handle the puck behind the net, and the first thing you see is a defenseman coming to take it from them, versus a team that gives them the opportunity to create that odd man situation on the breakout, the 6-on-5 with the goaltender handling the puck.
Dallas did that great with Marty Turco.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
they just everything was structured around
And we've
that.
seen some great stuff from Edmonton for how they do things when Mike Smith's handling the puck as well. And of course, Montreal with Carey, and lots of teams are starting to do it. But if, as Ned was saying, that he thinks this is sort of the way of the future, we're going to have head coaches on the way up, helping goaltenders develop those skills, giving them the opportunities to.
Otherwise, we just have to get Sensorino to finish the program that allows the goalie to grab a stick and see a forecheck coming at them.
Well, I mean, and that's one of the things Eric Comrie
They
suggested, right? Just that opportunity to learn to read the forecheck. But you need to do it in practice every day. So, absolutely.
And
Scuff marks on the hardwood.
Hey, if I may add, we do have a pro drills tip up at ingoalmag.com that we kind of forgot about last week from Calgary Flames goaltending coach Jason LaBarbera, on how you can sort of add a little fun and focus to those routine puck handling drills. We see it all the time. Plays at the other end. And I think this is one where Ned talks about every chance you get. And we heard it from Marty Brodeur. Every chance I got, I shot pucks. I had a guy skate back and forth at the blue line if they were working at the other end of the ice. I shot at the crossbar. I did all these things. And Ned talked about the same thing. And this is a great drill with Jason LaBarbera where you don't even need a coach, but if the play's at the other end, and don't just go behind the net and stop it and then throw it up the wall. But Jason would just, by simply dropping his gloves at various points in the corner and then challenging the goalies to hit them, created an additional sense of focus in terms of stopping the rim, setting, spotting a target, and hitting it. And he would turn it into games, and you could reward them, or you could punish them and make it a bagger if they couldn't hit the gloves. 2 on one side, 2 on the other side, and then you're through. Things like that. Just a small, easy tip at the that's used right up to the National Hockey League level to help make puck handling not just more fun in terms of the game element, but make the goalie focus a little more on
Consequences.
Yeah, make a pass as opposed to just get back there, grab
Goals.
it, and chuck it up the wall.
How many years ago was it? And that's not too many years. Even the National Hockey League, the goaltender's play was to either stop the puck or rim the puck. and nobody made
Mhm.
many decisions beyond that. And now you see a guy rim the puck. It's far less common because they're looking to be a little bit more creative with what they're doing.
It's last ditch, like no option, and you got to clear it
And
away.
yet it used to be the default play for all of us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was fun, though.
of course.
Defensemen really liked it too. Wingers loved it. Wingers were all over it. Alex Nedeljkovic, congratulations. We're really, really proud of you, happy, and that was cool catching up with you. I didn't know a lot about Alex, and to hear him talk was very generous of him. Although I will say, the second best stick handler on the show today, next to Kevin Woodley, who had to go third in our list of top 10. Where we each gave 3 of our favorite episodes in the 119, this being 120, the 119 previous episodes. So Woody, you had to stick handle around my 3 and Hutch's 3, and you did a fine job.
That's
on
because
that.
I had the practice stick. Warm-up stick. Sorry, the warm-up stick.
Mic drop. Thanks to Alex Nedeljkovic, of course, Cam over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and Sense Arena for presenting our feature interview every week. It's awesome, and get involved in that skills challenge. Giddy up, ready to rock. There's a couple more weeks left, and we will do an in-goal version of that Sense Arena skills challenge. The eyes are wide on Hutch, and Woody's looking around like he just dropped something and has to go, like his connection's failing.
No, I was looking around because I just wanted to see if I'd brought it down to the office yet, but Dustin Schwartz of the Edmonton Oilers has delivered my Sense Arena, so it's on, boys.
Let's go. Let's go. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll chat with you next time on In Goal Radio, the podcast.